In preparation for Lab 11, I wanted to show you how I would take the lab handout and create some class diagrams from it. The moment you start adding multiple classes in Java, the level of complexity goes up. Surprise! The level of complexity continues to increase in this class and becomes much easier for my mind and for many developers' minds to be able to diagram what your classes are going to be able to do without looking at a bunch of code. It's also essential to practice and this skill if you are coding in a team, which you almost always are, because it's much more convenient to talk about your code in graphical form. So I'm going to switch back and forth between this program, which is UML it. I wrote a note for you down here, and our instructions to show you what that process would look like. And this is just to get the lay of the land, kind of, before you start coding. Actually, I prefer to design stuff on paper a lot. It's just the manual process of writing a UML diagram just helps me somehow internalize what I'm supposed to be doing code-wise. And in general, I like to design the whole program on paper down to what each method will do, so that I really understand the structure of the program and then begin coding afterwards. It sounds like a lot of work up front, and it is, because you're doing the thought process all at once up in the front. But I find that's very helpful because then I write code that has fewer errors, and it really doesn't have any architectural errors at that point, because I've already figured out how the classes are going to talk to each other. For the moment, I will stop talking to you and switch to the lab handout so we can see what I'm going to be doing. So what I've done when I go through this is I figure out what classes I'm going to need, and here I'm going to be needing a dog class and a vet clinic class, and then I'm going to put in the properties. So this talks a little bit about the two files for my classes, so I've added them to my UML file, and now it tells me what the dog's properties are: name, breed, dog's weight, and owner name. And so if I'm drawing this on paper, or if I'm in a program like UML it, I can put the name as a string, breed is a string, weight is a double, and owner name is a string. Those are the properties. And then I can put a line, 2 lines, there, to write my methods underneath. I'm not sure why it is, oh, it's, yeah, here we go. There we go. Centering is what my question was. Why is it centering? Okay, so here's my dog class, and here are the properties, and underneath I'll write the methods. And the methods are, I know from looking at the handout, so I'm just going to write them here. A dog constructor that takes no parameters. A dog, that's a default constructor. A dog initializing constructor that takes name, breed, weight, and owner name. Looks like I'll have to move some of this around to fit. There's nothing wrong with wrapping onto another line when you do this, but I have enough space to make this work. Okay, so it's 2 methods, and I have a bunch of getters and setters. I could list them here. Sometimes I don't bother because there's a lot of getters and setters, but I could say get name, just to give you an idea of what this would look like. It would be something like get name, which returns a string, and get breed, string. I'll do the setters, and then I'll leave it. Set name would look like it would take a string as a parameter, and it would be void. And set breed would also take a breed as a parameter and not return anything. Furthermore, just to remind you, and because I've forgotten to do it here, I will put minus for the things that are private, and plus for the things that are public. These are all public, so they get a plus next to them, and that's what my UML looks like. So I'm omitting some of the getters and setters here because they all look the same, and it's not adding any information for me at this point. Okay, in addition, I have a toString method that I need to write, which doesn't take any parameters and returns a string. So just drawing a picture of this gives me an idea of what what the dog is all about, and also it gives me a place to look to make sure that I've hit everything that I knew that I needed to write. So just one more way of organizing yourself before you start coding. Really helpful. When your classes, this is a pretty simple class for this lab, but when your classes start getting more complicated and the connections between your classes start getting more complicated, it's really helpful to have a drawing, I find. Okay, vet clinic. The vet clinic doesn't have any properties going on. It's got a main method. And it's got a special method called find heaviest dog, which I'm going to put here. Find heaviest dog. That takes an array of dogs, and it returns a dog. So that would be the signature and how I would write that in the UML. Now we'll head to the Java file and get moving with that.